Good afternoon and welcome to City Line. I'm Karen Holmes Ward. Today we're going to speak with the representative from Massachusetts 7th Congressional District, Ayanna Pressley.
We need long-term change, not just one-time investments to root out racial injustice in the banking industry.
Representative Ayanna Pressley tackling some of the toughest issues facing the nation and local communities today.
Or even when Black people do own their homes, we are subjected to discriminatory home appraisals where our homes are valued less than they would be if owned by a white family.
Taking part in the longest teacher strike in recent history.
We cannot put students first if we keep putting teachers last.
Fighting for Social Security.
Social Security is a promise to workers, to our elders, to the disabled, a promise to all people who seek to age with dignity. And we will keep fighting to keep that promise.
Working to protect abortion rights and highlighting the health disparities for women of color.
Allow me to set the record straight. Abortion care is health care.
And taking a stand on the polarizing war between Israel and Hamas.
Ceasefire now!
And Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is here. Thanks for joining us. Let's say at the outset.
We did not plan this, okay? We did not plan this, but I'm in great company.
All right, all right. Pink and black is the call of the day.
Yes.
So, Congresswoman Pressley, Congress is back in session in 3 days following this 2-week recess. You know, Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, directed this 2-week recess. But what do you think is the first thing that Congress has to address when you go back in session next week?
Well, I know what Democrats will be focused on, which is centering the people and preventing a government shutdown, which we have done 3 times now by just making the case for how this would impact the lives of everyday people. You're talking about essential services, impacts on Social Security and Medicare, veterans benefits, food assistance to the tune of, in the Commonwealth, 125,000 people would be impacted when it comes to food assistance and supports, and also federal contract workers. There are 7,000 in the Commonwealth who would be impacted by that. So the number one priority is keeping the government open. We should not be in this situation at all, but this is just more of the same from this Republican majority 118th Congress. We started with chaos, and we continue to be in chaos. And it is incredibly frustrating because the people deserve a functional government.
And in fact, partisan politics have dominated this 118th Congress. Not much to show for it. How can the gridlock be broken? How do you get anything done?
Again, while continuing to fight for and to center the people, Republicans have governed with chaos, callousness. They are anti-woman, worker, immigrants, democracy.
But how do you find common ground? Because as you said, you're there to serve the people. How do you start to find common ground with the other side?
Again, I think it's by continuing to uplift the people and to appeal to our colleagues to put people over politics. And when we have reminded them of the implications of some of these draconian efforts, including the impacts of a government shutdown, again, Democrats 3 times now have been successful in staving that off. But this Congress, I've spent a great deal of time doing the work of mitigating the harm that they seek to legislate, while also still trying to advance progress. And I want to be very clear about this, Karen. I never want to lead the army of no, but I am fine with leading the army of yes if. I'm willing to sit at the table and work with anyone in the name of progress. But it has been very challenging because they do not negotiate in good faith. And so you cannot have an honest conversation with a dishonest person. And I do believe that every day, because of the chaos of Congress and this dysfunctional government that we are currently in, that they are making the affirmative case for Democrats. and exactly why we need to get the gavel back.
Let me ask you about some of the issues that are going to be before the Congress when you return. Let's talk about the war between Israel and Hamas. Very divisive issue from college campuses to Capitol Hill. Now, you took part in a pro-Palestinian rally here in Copley Square, and you've called on both sides to cease fire and to return the Israeli hostages. How do we see our way through this very thorny and layered conflict that dates back centuries? And how do you explain your position to your pro-Israel constituents?
Well, first, let me just say that I unequivocally condemn the horrific attacks by Hamas on October 7th and those 1,200 Israeli lives that were lost. And I mourn the 29,000 Palestinian lives, mostly children, that have been lost, innocent civilian lives. We cannot bomb our way to peace. History has already shown that. And vengeance is not a foreign policy doctrine. We need a permanent ceasefire to save lives. I see it just as plainly as that. Mm-hmm. And to deliver humanitarian aid, to return hostages to their families. We need a permanent ceasefire.
Talk about student debt. I know this is a very personal issue for you. You feel strongly that cancellation of student debt is closely related to closing the racial wealth gap.
Absolutely. Well, canceling student debt, this is an economic justice issue, a gender justice issue. 2/3 of this $2 trillion crisis are on the shoulders of women. And it is a racial justice issue because Black students borrow and default at higher rates because although there have been many gains by African Americans in income, we still do not have, by and large, generational wealth because Black Americans were denied access to every major federal relief program, from the Homestead Act to the GI Bill, and then targeted by redlining. So it is a racial justice issue. The racial wealth gap is a $10 trillion crisis, and we have got to narrow that gap, and I do believe by canceling student debt. And although the Supreme Court did rule against the people in obstructing the executive action that I worked for 2 years with Senator Warren and Schumer and a broad coalition of borrowers and activists to see the White House take that action, the Supreme Court ruled against the people. But we have had a commitment from President Biden and Secretary Cardona to keep their word. And so since the Supreme Court ruled against the people and stopped that executive action, which would have brought relief to 43 million borrowers, we have continued to push for and to see realized targeted relief of student debt to some 4 million Americans to the tune of $130 billion. But it's targeted relief, like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, the Income-Driven Repayment Program. I do want to also give a shout out to Governor Healy for her efforts locally to provide that student debt relief for those in the behavioral health. But this is a $2 trillion crisis impacting people from every walk of life. And so I'm going to continue to advocate for broad-based student debt relief.
Now, the price of education is only increasing.
That's right.
What plans could be put in place to finance education in the future so that people don't fall into debt?
Yeah. No, I thank you for making that point, and that's why we have to be at dual tracks here. While I'm doing the work of continuing to advocate for broad-based student debt cancellation and making sure where there's targeted relief right now that borrowers are aware of what's available to them, I continue to advocate for expanded Pell Grants, for investments in HBCUs, and I also, through community project funding, once called earmarks, I've delivered tens of millions of dollars to the Massachusetts 7th, including a $1 million investment at Bunker Hill Community College to support the City of Boston's tuition-free community college program. And I do think that ultimately we have to see higher education as a public good, and so it is deserving of a robust federal investment.
All right. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, you're going to stay with us for the entire program. When we return, we're going to talk about the migrant crisis in Massachusetts. That's when Cityline continues.